Hello and welcome to Harvey's Huddle. I'm your host, Jackson Harvey. Merry Christmas to everyone out there, and welcome to Week 16 in the NFL. Got a good episode for you today. Gonna keep it short and sweet. Let you all spend time with your families this holiday season. A great Week 15 again. This season has been wonderful. I was really happy about some of the outcomes that came along. Congrats to the New York Jets for their first win, and congrats to the Jaguars for now being last in the league and right now leading the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And I was going to go through my top 10. This was a hard top 10 for me to decide on. It actually looks very similar to last week's. This is a kind of time of year that all of the teams start to mesh into their place and take their place in the NFL, in the standings at least, with a lot of the playoff scenarios being decided either this week or next week. Number 10, I've got the Indianapolis Colts. They've been in and out of the top 10 the last month or so. I really think they're just right there with the Los Angeles Rams, although the Rams lost to the Jets, so I gotta take them out of the top 10 for now. Hopefully the Rams can bounce back against the Seahawks, but we'll see. At number 9, I got the Bucks. Anyone who's listened to me talk about the NFL the past few weeks knows that I'm not too high on this Bucks team. I don't like Tom Brady. I don't like how they're dealing with the offense at this point. They had a good comeback win against Atlanta, but I just don't like them as a team, and I don't think they're one of the power teams in the NFL. At number 8, I got the Seattle Seahawks. They barely beat a Washington team without Alex Smith and without Antonio Gibson. And that's crazy to me. I don't know how someone can put the Seahawks as a top 5 team in the league when they've lost to the Giants. They barely squeaked out a win against an injured Washington team. And they've lost a lot of division games this year. So I got them no higher than number 8. Number 7, I got the Titans. They're good, again, but not great. I don't think they're going to be able to make a really deep playoff run with the kind of play that they're having, although Derrick Henry is arguably the best running back in the NFL right now. So with him, they could probably ride him to a divisional game, maybe even the championship game, but I doubt it. At number 6, I have the Cleveland Browns. I really am all in on the Browns right now. I think a lot of people throughout the NFL are. I really like the Cleveland Browns. I really like their offense. I like Baker Mayfield. Nick Chubb had an offish day on Sunday Night Football against the Giants, but the Giants have a pretty decent run defense, so the only thing I see when I watch them, I think, oh my goodness, this team would be great if only they had a secondary that could tackle, that could cover, that could play defense in a way that would let them win games in a more decided fashion. So, but I like the Browns. I think they're at number 6. Number 5, I've got the Ravens. Dismantled a really bad Jaguars team on Sunday. I think they're peaking right now. They're starting to get a lot of their offensive weapons going. They're getting some chemistry. Hollywood Brown's finally coming out and catching some important passes, catching some touchdowns. This team is starting to ramp up a bit, although they have kind of a lackluster defense at this point. At number 4, I have the Saints. I don't know if Brees should have played or not. I know he was asked afterwards, are you 100% right now? And he said no. I don't know if that's a smart decision. I don't know. None of us will know how it would have gone down if Taysom Hill had started, but they still played a good game against the Chiefs. A great second half, almost pulled off a comeback, but I still have them at number 4. At number 3, I've got the Green Bay Packers. They didn't have the most dominant win against the Panthers, but I still think they're good. Rodgers is still in the MVP running, and really right now it's between him and Mahomes. Josh Allen might be able to squeak his way in there, but we will see how these last 2 weeks go. Packers, of course, are right now in the number 1 seed for the NFC, and if they can get that number 1 seed, they have a good chance of making the Super Bowl, in my opinion. At number 2, I've got the Buffalo Bills. This team is completely... They're just complete. That's the best word to use it. It's complete. They are killing it on offense. They are playing very good defense, great special teams all around. This team comes to play week in and week out. Especially in the last few weeks, we've been able to see them in primetime games. And we have another Monday night matchup coming from the Bills this week. So look out for these Bills. I think they could even beat this number 1 team on a Sunday, the Chiefs. I think they could beat them. I really do. I think if they do end up playing in the AFC Championship game, that we will see fireworks. It will be one of the best championship games we will ever see. The Chiefs, they're winning the close games right now. If you remember, they were able to go through a lot of adversity in their last Super Bowl run last season. They came back from wins. They won the close games, and that is something that is crucial with a Super Bowl caliber team, is to come back and be able to win those close games. And I think the Chiefs are doing that right now. Some people might say, "Oh man, they're getting in these close games against teams that they should be blowing out," but no, I don't think that that's a good reason for this Chiefs team and for any Super Bowl team. If you win, you win. And winning the close games are sometimes even more hard than winning in a blowout. There you have it. I got the Chiefs number 1. Steelers are, of course, not in the top 10. I do not think that they are even in my top 15 teams in the league right now. They are a disgrace. They are the worst 11-win team I've seen in recent memory. They need to figure it out in the next couple weeks. If they lose this week, they very well could give up the number 1 spot in the AFC North. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of Pittsburgh, first game I want to talk about is the Colts taking on the Steelers. This is a tale of 2 teams that are trending in opposite ways. Indianapolis, they have won 5 of their last 6, and that includes... And more than that, they've won 10 out of their last 13 games. Incredible. Great team. Of course, they're vying for top spot in the AFC South right now with Tennessee, and we'll see what happens there. Indianapolis, Rivers was 22 for 28, 228 yards, and with 2 touchdowns. He's only had 1 interception in the last 6 games, and he didn't throw an interception last game. Taylor and Hines in the backfield, they combined for 126 yards and a touchdown, and the Indianapolis defense also forced 3 fumbles. Their offense right now, they're tied for 8th in the NFL with interceptions thrown. That's the least interceptions thrown, and they're also 2nd in the least sacks allowed with 16, which is very characteristic of these Colts as of late. They have great offensive line play, and Phillip Rivers has been really smart with the football this season. Not to mention T.Y. Hilton is just bursting onto the scene this month, and they could be a real threat. They've beaten the Packers. They've beaten some other top-tier teams in the league. This team could threaten to be a dark horse in the playoffs here. On defense, the Colts, they're 5th least in passing touchdowns allowed with 19. They have the 5th most interceptions with 15. And they have the 5th least rushing yards allowed with 1,373. And to top it all off, they're tied for the least yards per carry amount average at 3.8. Steelers, on the other hand, talk about opposing trends. They've lost 3 in a row after starting 11-0, and 2 of those 3 teams are the Washington football team and the Cincinnati Bengals. Just inexcusable. It's unexplainable. Well, it is explainable, but in the loss to Cincinnati, Roethlisberger went 20 for 38, 170 yards, and he threw a touchdown and a pick. Benny Snell, I've been bashing on the rushing game for the Steelers for the last few weeks. Snell played pretty well. He had 84 yards and he threw in a touchdown. Right now, what's going on is turnovers and just bad play all around. I think they have a bad energy about them. They don't seem confident in the way they're playing football. They had 2 fumbles and an interception, and they did not force a single turnover on defense. And they only registered 1 sack. For a team that's leading, one of the leading teams in the NFL in terms of sacks on defense, you've got to be able to get in the backfield, especially against a quarterback like Ryan Finley. I don't know. This defense, I said a few weeks ago, they were elite. They were playing elite football, and they need to go back to whatever basics they were doing and get back on that horse in order to be able to make a playoff run. On offense, they're tied for the second lowest yards per attempt, per pass attempt, at 6.2 yards. They also had the lowest amount of sacks allowed with 12, and they're tied for the lowest rushing yards per carry with 3.7. Those are 2 stats that mean a lot, the yards per carry and the yards per pass attempt. If you're not moving the ball very well and you're among the lowest amounts in the NFL, you're not going to be able to win football games. You need to be productive on offense. On defense, they lead in a lot of categories right now because of their 11-0 start. For instance, they have the lowest completion percentage allowed. They have the second lowest yards per pass attempt allowed. They're tied for the 6th lowest passing touchdowns allowed. They have the most interceptions with 17. They have the most sacks with 47. The only thing is, I did some digging, and I found that the Pittsburgh Steelers have faced the 5th lowest amount of pass attempts in the NFL. The 5th lowest amount. And so no wonder they have these great passing stats. They're not facing as many passes as other teams because their defense isn't playing very well as of late, and I don't know why else, but this defense isn't as cut out for it as we thought they were. The Steelers are imploding. I've said it. I'm going to say it all the time. I'll say it over and over again. I think they're overrated. I think that they will not make it far into the playoffs. If anything, they'll maybe score a touchdown or 2 in their wild card game, but that's about it. I really like the Colts. I think they're trending upwards. They're starting to really show up this latter part of the season, and so I'll take the Colts here 30-21. Another thing about the Steelers, I just need to mention, this offense needs to call better plays. They need to be better. Pittsburgh, let's get your act together. Quit throwing the ball 40 times a game. Get some running in. Benny Snell just showed up for you on Monday night in a loss. Don't put Connor back into that situation. He hasn't shown up this season at all. I don't know where his head's at. Benny Snell should be your running back going forward. And if he has a good game, they have a chance of stealing this one, but I don't think they will. I like the Colts. Next, let's talk about Miami taking on Las Vegas for a few minutes. Not a huge game to talk about, but it has very important playoff implications. Miami right now is tied with Baltimore. Both have 9-5 records, and Las Vegas has a record of 7-7. And right now, Miami has the tiebreaker in terms of strength of schedule, I believe, over top of the Ravens. So Miami needs to win this game in order to keep their playoff spot, whereas Las Vegas needs to win this game in order to have some sort of a shot. So must win for both of these teams. Vegas, they came off of a really rough loss against the Chargers. Carr, he exited the game early. Marcus Mariota, props to him. Give him a hand. He came in and played phenomenal football. Just phenomenal football. Almost led his team to a win, but it's hard to win when you're only one player. Mariota went 17 for 28, 226 yards, and he threw in a touchdown and a pick. He also led the Raiders in rushing yards with 88, and he had a rushing touchdown as well. Josh Jacobs in the backfield, he had 76 yards rushing and another touchdown on the ground. Their offense right now, they have the 8th most passing yards per attempt with 7.7. They're tied for the 6th least interceptions thrown with 8. And they're tied for the 8th least sacks allowed with 22. They also have the 9th highest quarterback rating, tied for the 9th highest with 100.9. The defense, on the other hand, they have the 9th least completion percentage allowed with 63.3. They're also tied for the 2nd least sacks, 16. And they're tied for the 5th most rushing yards per carry allowed. Miami, they beat New England. Tua, he wasn't fantastic. He went 20 for 26, 145 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. Amired and Breida had 208 yards combined on the ground and 1 touchdown. Miami is confusing. They have a really great defense, I think, but Tua needs to come out and play like he did against the Chiefs every week. He needs to come out and throw the ball better each and every week in order to really step up to that level of being an NFL quarterback. It is his rookie season. We'll cut him a little bit of slack, but he needs to really fill that role and start throwing the ball well. On offense, the Dolphins, they're tied for the 5th lowest rushing yards per carry with 3.9. And on defense, they're tied for the 5th lowest completion percentage allowed at 63%. And they're tied for the 6th highest yards per pass attempt allowed. And they're also the second when it comes to, or the second lowest when it comes to passing touchdowns allowed with 16. I really like Miami's defense. I think Tua will improve on offense. He'll be able to pick apart a pretty lackluster Vegas defense who hasn't really played well unless you're Kansas City they're playing against. So I really like the Dolphins here. I'm going to take them 27-16. Finally, we're going to take a look at Seattle taking on the Rams. This game will most likely determine the NFC West. The Rams fell flat against the Jets. We all know, we've heard about it all week. Jared Goff went 22 for 34, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Cam Akers rushed for 63 yards. I believe he got hurt in that game as well. The Rams, they really have this knack for playing down to their opponent and then meeting the competition when they show up, if they're good. So we'll take a look at what happens here against the Seahawks. I really don't know where they go, but on average, they have one of the best defenses in the league. They have the least passing yards allowed and the least passing touchdowns allowed with 15. On the offense, they need to be more consistent. They need to fill that void with Cameron Akers being gone now. So we'll see what happens. I don't think Goff is a star quarterback. I don't think he should be treated as one. I think he needs a certain system around him, a certain caliber of running back in order to be able to succeed. But anyways, I really don't know if this offense can get it done. I hope they can, because I'm given hope by the last matchup against Seattle where the Rams really took it to the Seahawks. Their offense, though, they are tied for the 5th most rushing touchdowns in the NFL with 19. The Seahawks, in my opinion, they've been really lackluster. I know you might be like, oh, well, they've won their last 2 games. Like, aren't they doing a little better? No, I don't think they are. They barely beat a Washington team that was missing their starting quarterback, who's really their third string quarterback at the beginning of the season, and their star rookie running back right now. And they only beat them by 5 points, 20-15. Like, what? If you would have told me at week 4 if the Seahawks were going to lose 20-15 to the football team, I would have fallen out of my chair laughing. Wilson, he went 18 for 27, 121 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception. Wilson needs to be able to throw the ball better. If you're doing this against the football team's defense, no wonder you got shut down by the Rams. And you probably will get shut down by the Rams here. Carson, Hyde, and Wilson, they combined for 170 yards rushing and a touchdown. Their defense is an issue right now, but they have won the last couple of weeks despite a bad defense, but I don't think they've played against really good teams. Last time I mentioned the last game they had, Ramsey really shut down Metcalf, and Wilson wasn't able to get it done with anyone else. I think this cornerback group for Los Angeles is really going to get it done and be able to stifle a Seahawks team that is missing an identity right now. I think it's going to happen again. I think the Rams are going to be able to come out and have a really good game plan. I trust Sean McVay more than I do Pete Carroll, so I'm going to take the Rams here 34-24. Well, that's all I got for you. Check me out on Instagram at Harvey's Huddle or on Twitter at Harvey_Huddle, and take a look at my other predictions for the week. Talk about what you think about my predictions and what's going on. I hope you all have a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas. I'm Jackson Harvey. This has been Harvey's Huddle. Take care.